Hi, I'm Professor Lux, and I'm going to review with you using a source. We're going to start with introducing the title and the author. We're going to look at providing an overview, quoting the article, inserting citations, and then creating a works cited entry. We'll start with introducing the title and the author. This is required, and it really needs to go in the first sentence of your summary. Now, I did a Google search, and I found an article called Different Ways People Handle Ethical Issues in the Workplace, and I'm going to show you how to do this in your summary, so I have an example for you. So here's my example of a good sentence to begin your summary. It has the title of the article in quotation marks, because you'll remember that article titles must be in quotation marks. And it also includes the author's full name. The first time you introduce the author, you must introduce both first and last name, and anything, if they give you a middle initial or a middle name, you have to provide the full name. And I've also given a brief overview of the purpose of the article. In The Different Ways People Handle Ethical Issues in the Workplace, Mark Paston describes 4 ethical personality types commonly found in the workplace. And you'll see that I included a comma here because I have this introductory phrase that actually will go inside the quotation marks, even though that seems a little strange to put extra punctuation in the title, but that is where it goes. So after you have that opening sentence, you'll write the rest of your summary. Remember that a summary is a condensed version of a longer piece. Probably your summary will be much smaller than your paragraph of response, and it should be. You're writing it in your own words, still utilizing a professional vocabulary level and tone. You're not going to include any direct quotes. Those will go in your paragraph of response. Remember that a summary provides an overview of the main idea. It needs to be clear that the ideas you're discussing come from that article. Since you've introduced the author's full name in your opening sentence, if you want to reference them again, you will reference them by their last name only. In your paragraph of response, you're responding to the situation with Bill and Joan and how you would handle it. Would you send the memos? You're required to reference the article you have chosen. You have to have at least one direct quote. When you quote the article, please note, this is required, the quote must go in a sentence of your own. It cannot stand alone in the paragraph as a sentence. Let me show you an example. Here I've included a screenshot from the article. Here's just one of the paragraphs that I'm going to quote from for this example. In the situation with Bill, I would send or not send the memos because Bill is what Paston classifies as a classic wiggler. A wiggler is an employee who does not consider right and wrong. Instead, he or she is motivated by self-interest and chooses the route that's most advantageous to his or her own interests. I actually should not have this quote there, but you can see that I've got the motivated by self-interest. I'm only putting quotation marks around that because it is a direct quote from right here in the article, and then the route that's most advantageous is also a direct quote from the article. I've left out some of the words. I've only put quotation marks around what comes from Mark Paston's article. Now, before I can end my sentence with this period, I need to add my internal citation. So after my last word, no matter where in the sentence the quote comes, I'm going to have a space, parentheses, because it's a parenthetical citation, and because it's an electronic source, it's a website, there aren't pages, I'm going to have to count paragraphs. And this comes from paragraph 8. P-A-R period, it's all lowercase, and the number 8. Please note the spacing. There's a space here, there's a space here, and then the punctuation for my sentence goes here. If, for example, I was not going to include this last phrase, I would have the same thing. End quote, space, P-A-R period, and the period out here. If my sentence, if I ended here, if I said something like, Paston says the wiggler wants to protect his own interests, I would still not put my period in my quotation mark. I'm using the period for my sentence, which goes out here. Okay, for your works cited page, I'm going to show you a really easy way to find that information. If you still have your handbook from Comp, you can always use that, but here is maybe an easier way to go. Just do a Google search for OWL Purdue MLA, and then you're going to want to click on the Works Cited page. That will bring you to Purdue's online writing lab, and you can see the menu on the left-hand side of the page. You're making a Works Cited page, and you're using an electronic source, so you click there, and then you'll scroll through the options to find the one that applies to your source. Don't choose an entire website because you're not using an entire website. You are using a page on a website. So here they give you an explanation of what is used and an example. I've already copied that here on this Word document, and I've started to create my Works Cited entry. In their example, they didn't have an author, so they started with the title of the article, and that might be your situation, that you can't find the author, in which case you would just start with the title of the author, title of the article. I have an author, so I did last name, comma, first name, period, the title of my article, and that is followed by a period which goes inside the quotation marks. After that, like in the example, is the name of the website. My website is Bloomberg Business Week. That goes in italics. Then comes the publisher of the website. Sometimes you can't find this. On mine, I went all the way to the bottom of the screen, past all the comments, past everything, and I found it down here. If you can't find a publisher, you would add N period P period, which is an abbreviation for no publisher. So the publisher, comma, the date it was published. Again, I just happened to find one that has the date right here. And you do that in this format. You do the date, an abbreviation of the month, and then the year, period. If you don't have a date, you would do N period D period for no date. Then you put the type of source it is. So if you were using a book, this would say print, but since we're using the internet, we put web, and then you put the date that you found the article. So I put today's date, the date, the year, the month, I'm sorry, and the year, period. Then you have to format this according to MLA format using a hanging indent. So highlight your entry, click this arrow right here. This is the indentation menu, and you're doing a special indentation. You want a hanging. MLA also asks you to use double spacing, and you'll want to check this box, of course, and then there, it's done it for you. So that's a brief overview of using sources for this exercise. This will also come in handy for your research report, so you may want to review it later. As always, if you have any questions, please send me an email by finding my name in the class list under Tools. Thank you.